Let's bring in CTV's Ottawa Bureau Chief, Joyce Napier, with more. Joyce, for all intents and purposes, everyone I have asked has expressed surprise at this stunning resignation. What more can you tell us?
Well, I think maybe, Jen, the timing was surprising. It wasn't if he was going to leave, it was when he was going to leave. I mean, it's not even the writing on the wall. It was the loud voices that were telling him to please go now. This is a party that wants a leader that will win the next election. That is the only question they're asking themselves, not if they think he's telegenic or if they like him or, if he's a sympathetic character. What they want is a leader that will bring them to power. And they have concluded after the election that he couldn't win against a wounded Justin Trudeau coming out of SNC-Lavalin scandal that lasted for months. And that did, sort of taint his whole image. And then during the campaign, brown face, black face, and he still could not win. So, the rumors and the rumblings, Jen, started during the campaign when those polls were showing that despite the problems that Justin Trudeau was having, that he was not getting ahead and that they were still neck and neck. So, that people say today that they are surprised that he's leaving is a little bit disingenuous because it was hard for him to hang on when all these voices were rising in his own party. People he had worked with, people who supported him for a long time and who were now saying, well, maybe he should go because, anybody who sits on those benches for the Conservative Party, they don't want to be in the opposition. They want to be in government.
But was there a straw that broke the camel's back, Joyce? Because up until this point, Mr. Scheer himself had remained quite defiant. He had fired two of his communications people earlier on, hoping that maybe that would, stem the tide of calls for his head. There was support for him, matched equally by the non-support for him. But what broke today was the news that we're learning regarding some funds that were used by the Conservative Party from their discretionary fund were used to pay for his child's private school education in Ottawa. What can you tell us about that? And do you think that was sort of the last straw?
Well, as you were saying earlier, Jennifer, this is not unusual. The sort of wing or part of the party, of the Conservative Party, that is the fundraising tool of the party, does give money to leaders, whether it's for clothing, whether it's for travel. We've seen this in the past with other leaders, whether they are conservative or liberal. This does happen. What happened is, I think, that members and even MPs did not know about the fact that these funds were given to the Scheer family in order for them to send their kids to private school. That's not the sin, if you will. The sin is that people did not know about this. So this is a man who is living in subsidized housing, subsidized by the government, and whose kids are sent to private school by the party. So the optics, perhaps, of a wounded leader, because he is a wounded leader who hasn't really brought them, sort of any glory after this election, to on top of it find out something that they probably should have already known. Anyway, the MPs and anyway some of the rank and file of this party who probably are, as Lisa Raitt told you earlier on the phone, asking, so what is up with that? Why did the party use funds to send his kids to private schools when he's advocating for the middle class and pointing his finger at Justin Trudeau and saying that he is disconnected with reality? So there's a little bit of that. I think the surprise was a nasty surprise for those members, those MPs who did not know about this and who were taken sort of aback by the news this morning. So is that the straw, Jennifer, that broke the camel's back? There were many straws in the last few weeks. This is perhaps the one that they said, okay, you know what, it's time for me to go. He says that it's for family reasons. He grew up in the House. His speech was quite interesting. He was 25 when he got to the House of Commons. He is a man in his early 40s now. So really, he spent all his adult life in the House as a speaker first and now as opposition leader. So it is quite interesting to see sort of the fall of this Conservative leader.
He kept his humor during his resignation speech, and he did talk about, being a lifelong politician and how perhaps he might be speaker again, although he didn't want to be the Grover Cleveland of Canadian politics. What will be his legacy, Joyce? What will he be remembered for?
Well, that's a sad, he will be remembered for the leader who could not answer the question when the question was asked, whether or not he was in favor of a woman's choice when it came to the whole abortion question. He is the leader who will be remembered for somebody who did not get behind all the climate issues. He allowed the Liberals to own those issues, to own social issues, to own the only social progressive issues were owned by the Liberals when the Conservatives should have probably owned those as well. LGBTQ rights, marching in pride parades, not wanting to answer about, same-sex marriage, and on and on and on. Before choosing a leader, and you were asking that question earlier to Tom Mulcair, I think the party has to decide, what are they? Are they red Tories? Are they progressive conservatives? Are they social conservatives? Are they, fiscal conservatives and progressive socially? They haven't really defined themselves. They were a merging of two parties, the progressive conservatives and the more social conservative Western wing of the party. And I think that now they will have to decide, who are we and what are we? Do we want to lean a little bit to the left to go get those votes, those progressive votes that went Liberals because they wanted a progressive leader? And so it will be an interesting few months for this party for them to define themselves and then to find somebody that can bring them into the next federal election.
CTV's Joyce Napier in Ottawa. Thank you, Joyce, as always. Appreciate it.